Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you've been well. Today's video is going to be about my truck, but kind of just generalities here. So we're talking about kind of comparing the differences and similarities, of which there are a lot, between building an overland rig and building a bug-out truck. So I have a 2016 Toyota Tacoma. I have a bunch of videos of it on my channels. People are asking for videos on it all the time. So this one's gonna kind of be about it, but kind of just, you know, you can take bits and pieces and apply it to your Ford Explorer or whatever. So you don't need a Tacoma to watch this video, but if you have one, that's a bonus. You'll have to forgive me. Also, a lot of my neighbors are being kind of loud today, building stuff out here in the mountains. So if you hear some hammers banging in the background, my bad. You're just gonna have to deal with it. So overlanding is, for those that don't know, kind of just vehicle-centric exploration and camping, kind of. There's, you know, I could get into the technical definition, but it's basically taking your truck out to remote destinations and camping for the most part. So you can see how that kind of carries over a lot to bugging out. So this is a good opportunity if you're a prepper type or a survivalist, or you just want to build a sweet bug out truck, but maybe your wife or your husband or whatever is kind of giving you a hard time for spending that money. Get into overlanding. Take your family out for weekend camping trips and stuff like that. And you have two birds with one stone there. So you can build a capable overlanding rig. You say, oh, I need this stove, I need this case, I need whatever for overlanding to, you know, to make camping more enjoyable. Use that same piece of whatever, carry it over, and it's a bug out truck type piece of gear. Another kind of neat thing about being into overlanding or whatever is you can drive around with a truck like this. So this, you know, I usually don't drive around with the case on top and stuff, but you could, and you're not really looked at like a crazy person, because a lot of people are into overlanding right now. And if something, your neighbors, whatever, ask, you tell them, I'm into overlanding, I'm into vehicular camping. And they're like, oh, that sounds really cool. Versus if your truck's decked out like this and you're not into vehicle camping or overlanding, and you say, oh, well, it's a bug out truck, I'm really into being a prepper. People might look at you a little weird. So in this video, I'm gonna be kind of breaking down we're not going very in depth on this stuff, but kind of going over some considerations for building either an overland rig or a bug out truck. So the first thing you really want to start with is a vehicle that is reliable. Now for overlanding, you want a vehicle that's going to be able to get you there and get you back safely, not break down when you're on the way. For a bug out truck, arguably it's even more important, because in an emergency situation, you want your vehicle to be able to get you out to wherever you're trying to go. So I would say that the most important thing of anything is having a reliable vehicle. Now, say you already have a reliable vehicle, check that box. Now let's kind of get into some other things that might help your rig be essentially more capable, allow you to carry more stuff, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit of the gear that you might want to consider packing into this thing, either when you're going out on an overland trip or when you're going out to bug out. Now I'll try and not say those two things, because that's going to get super repetitive throughout the video, so you can kind of take whatever I'm talking about and apply it to either overlanding or bugging out. So the first thing I would consider upgrading for either is tires. Chances are, if you bought your vehicle new from a dealer or used from just a regular Joe Schmo, you're gonna have pretty much street tires on here, which are fine for driving on the street, but with a small upgrade, you could wait till your tires are worn down and you naturally have to get new tires anyway. It's a good time to look at upgrading to an all-terrain tire, but a more meaty all-terrain. So BFG KO2s, I've been running on rigs for a long time. They're not too aggressive, but will provide much more increased traction when you actually take it off the pavement. If you want to go even more extreme, if this isn't a vehicle that you're driving every day, this is my daily driver. But if it's not your daily driver, or even if it is, a lot of people daily drive with mud terrains, you could look into mud terrains, which have an even more aggressive tread, which will translate both towards traction, being able to get you over obstacles through mud, sometimes through snow, up on rocks. The compound and the tread pattern both lends itself better to off-road use, which you'll probably be encountering for both overland and bugging out. Additionally, a lot of times you'll have a little bit more sidewall protection, which is a good thing, because you don't want to rip your tire or have a flat when you're trying to get somewhere. So tires, definitely probably the first thing you'd want to upgrade. You could just keep the stock tire size with a more aggressive tire, or you could go for a lift. A lift will get you more ground clearance, allow you to make it up over obstacles a little easier. And when you're doing that, that would be another good time to upgrade to a bigger, meatier, beefier, treadier tire. Okay, so in conjunction with upgrading your tires, the idea is so you don't get stuck as easily. Inevitably, you may get stuck, so having some devices that allow you to air down your tires, airing down your tire allows it to get more traction, allows it to get greater surface area, both in sand, rocks, all kinds of stuff. So the ability to air down your tires is huge for off-roading, but also for overlanding or bugging out. But also you want to be able to air them back up. So whether that's just a separate tank, CO2 tank, or a separate compressor, or I have onboard air, I have an ARB compressor that I can air my tires back up, because you don't want to be driving around with low tire pressure all the time. So that's first step. Second step would be get something like this. This is a MaxTrax. There are other brands out there. MaxTrax, kind of, people will say they're the best. I like them. They mount in clever ways. They look good. They have them in all kinds of colors, all that stuff. Very, very, very durable. So these, people don't know, they're traction devices. So like you used to do with old car mats or sticks or whatever that you throw under your tires when it's spinning to give it traction, these are devices that are dedicated to that. So if you're stuck in snow, sand, whatever, mud, and your tires just can't quite get the traction, you take some of these boards, shove them under your tires. It allows you to get traction, get up out of there. So this is a great device, very easy to deploy, get into action, get unstuck, throw it back in the truck, throw it back on the mount, whatever. So if you either don't have a winch, or you're in a hurry or something like that, and you don't have time to get the winch line out and do all that kind of stuff, using devices like this are super easy, super fast, and really not complicated at all. A winch, you kind of have to know how to use a winch if you want to do it safely. This, much easier. So then we could talk about comms. You have cell phones and all that kind of stuff, but if it goes down, then you're going to want a radio. This is my antenna and antenna mount. This is a little stubby one that I have on a lot of times. It doesn't have nearly the range of my other one, but I'll keep this on here because I can go through car washes or whatever, and it's good for a couple miles simplex, or I could hit repeater, stuff like that. This is, all that is talking about ham radio. Here is my ham radio. I'll link to all this stuff down below. You do need a license, you do need to study, you do need to take a test in order to legally transmit on one of these. So that's, the barrier to entry is higher, but it's much more powerful than any other type of radio you have. But if you don't want to go through the trouble of getting your ham, you can do a CB, or there's other, you could go to Costco and get those 12-mile walkie-talkies or whatever like that. Something is better than nothing. Ham is the best though. So yeah, that's communications. Obviously very important to communicate with other people in your party or your caravan or whatever like that. When the grid goes down, obviously you can't use a cell phone, but a lot of times when you're overlanding or if you're bugging out, you'll be in an area where you don't have cell phone service natively at all. Sorry, like I got dogs barking, hammers going. Every time I try to make a video, people are like, let's make all the noise in the neighborhood that we can. So sorry, I don't know how loud that is all on the mic. It's pretty loud in real life. So anyways, way to communicate and a way to navigate as well. So if you don't know your trails like the back of your hand, which a lot of us don't, but some of us do, then you will want a GPS device. I'm not going to get into them because there are tons of them. Some GPS devices also have emergency communication on them as well, but a lot of those are tied to SMS or MMS, so you can't use one of those devices to communicate in grid down scenarios if the networks are down. So pros and cons to having kind of multiple ways to communicate. Now with communication, all this communication, unless you're talking smoke signals and fires and flashing lights and SOS and all that kind of stuff, which is, I'm not going to get into that. Other ways to communicate as well, but most of the ways that I'm into require power. So obviously when you're running your vehicle, you have power, but in a grid down or even an extended overlanding trip, you might not want to run your vehicle all the time. So that brings us into the next category, which is power, which is having the juice to fuel your comms, your lights, all kinds of stuff. Lanterns and stuff that have a little solar panel and a battery and all that stuff built into one unit. I'll try to link to those below. If I forget and you're curious, comment for me to link to them, and I'll add links down in the video description. But those for illumination are one option. Another option is to get a whole big battery and either have a second dual battery in your vehicle, which is one really popular option for overlanding, but it isn't as good for bugging out. What I prefer for bugging out is a separate, they're called solar generators, or a real generator if you want, but then you do need to bring the fuel for a real generator, and it makes noise, and a lot of times you want to be quiet. So a solar generator is basically a battery, a fuel cell with an inverter, and that allows you to power either DC or AC stuff off of a battery that you can recharge either from your vehicle, from an outlet, but you probably won't have an outlet in this scenario, or from the sun, from a solar panel. So I like the solar generator, solar panel options for a few reasons. You can rig up a permanent solar panel on your vehicle as well, but that doesn't really work well for a lot of people. And also your solar panel, a lot of times you want to park in the shade. If it's permanently mounted to your truck, you're in the shade and it's not charging, you don't have the best angle, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, pros and cons to everything. I really like solar generators because A, you can use them at home in a power outage type scenario. So you don't even need a vehicle, you just use them at home, power your refrigerator or a CPAP or whatever in an emergency. You have them ready to go. You can just put them in your bedroom. They're not a regular generator, so they're not pumping out bad fumes, making noise, any of that stuff. So great for home emergency type scenario, but also vehicular. So solar generator, right? You can take in your truck, toss in the back of your SUV, trunk of your car, backseat of your truck, back of your truck as well if it's somewhat weather sealed, because most of these devices aren't like fully waterproof and stuff. So you can take them, you can use them overlanding in your weekend to power whatever you need to power, but also say you're bugging out, or say you're gonna set up camp at a certain place for a number of days or weeks at a time, and you don't necessarily want to be tied to your vehicle. You pick up your solar generator, you take it to a camp spot, you set up your solar panel in a perfect place and set it. Leave it there and it's good to go. So a lot of pros to something like that. I've been testing out two kind of setups right now. The big baller setup, which is the Energy Kodiak. This thing is a beast. If you want lots of juice, lots of power, and still 20 pounds, relatively lightweight. This is about the power of a car battery. So I think it's, I forget off the top of my head, I think just under 100 amp hours. So basically about as much as your regular car battery, but it is lithium. So that means you get more usable power out of the same amp hours basically. So like a lead acid battery, you can't really deplete it past a certain level. You can deplete more from a lithium. I won't get into it too much. But then paired with that, I have the other big baller setup. This is a power film. This is a 120 watt foldable panel. I have this set up with some cordage and stuff to where I actually use it as an awning. I hook it up to my roof racks, pull it out, and then it becomes an awning that is a solar panel. I've never seen anyone do this. It's not super revolutionary, but it's something I haven't seen done. I had an idea. I reached out to these companies. They actually sent these out so I could test it out. So I've been using this as an actual awning that is a solar panel. So you pair something like this with something like this, and you have kind of unlimited power. So that's good. I've been testing out a more affordable but weaker, not as powerful solution as well. But pros and cons again. This is a Jackery 500 watt hour system. The inverter is not as powerful. There's not as much battery, but it's a little smaller. It's kind of a nice compact shape that you can fit a lot of places. And this pairs with its own 100 watt, also foldable, but not in the same way that folds panel. So this is another combo that goes together well. There's a lot of options out there. Goal Zero has stuff. I'm going to be reviewing both of these products too, so stay tuned to the channel if you're interested in those specifically. But yeah, power, either or, go without power, which is a viable option for some stuff, or a dual battery setup, but that does rely on you having gas for your vehicle and actually running your engine to recharge, unless you're going to wire up some solar panels to your battery or dual battery system, which you totally can do. But like I mentioned, there's some pros to that as well. Pros to having it all wired up in your truck is you don't have to pack anything. It's all there wired in already. So pros and cons. So then we get into some other very important topics. We have water, we have food, shelter, heat. These are all things to consider. You need water. So if you're just going on an overland trip, you can pack water. I've have a lot of other videos on my channel. I have some water jugs that I could definitely recommend. So you can bring enough for the weekend, but you also want to be prepared for needing to filter water. So if you're near a water source, or if you're collecting your own water, I'm not going to get too into that, you will need a way to filter it in order to use it. You can boil it, you can water filter, you can tabs. Having the ability to do all of them for different situations is definitely a plus. I would recommend a gravity filter rather than a pump, just because it's easier, especially if you're a vehicle. You just kind of hang it, let gravity do the work for you. But you will want water, both a way to store water, to filter water, and to use the water, so disperse it, water bottles, stuff like that. So water, definitely something to consider. So then we have food. A lot of overlanders like refrigerators. They're big, they're bulky, they consume energy, but they're awesome. I don't have one. I don't go on a ton of long trips, or I don't overland all the time, so I just use a cooler, which works fine for me. Maybe I'll get a refrigerator one day, but refrigerator uses power. So in a bug out type situation, you don't really want to rely on a refrigerator, probably because you don't really want to rely on power. Now, if you have one of these other things that we just talked about, you might be able to get enough power from the sun in order to run your refrigerator for a while, but who knows? Same goes with cooler. For a bug out type scenario, you can keep some stuff cool for a little while. Say you're just getting out of Dodge and you want to bring all your steaks with you, put them in a cooler and they'll stay cool for a while. But the longer term, then you want to get into different kinds of food. So whether that's dehydrated or whatever, you want food that will be able to last the duration that you're going to be out. And maybe you're by a stream or a lake and you want to catch some fish to eat. Maybe you're somewhere where you can harvest food from the land, which is really everywhere, but you might not have that skill yet, but a skill that you might want to work on. So food, another thing to consider, both what you're going to eat, how you're going to store it, how you're going to cook it as well. So if you have butane or propane, that's going to run out eventually. So you do want to have some little natural, there's a bunch of little stoves out there that can consume twigs or larger sticks. I mean, you could obviously build a fire pit and build a real fire and put something on it and grill it and boil water on that. But there are little stoves as well, solo stoves and stuff like that, which do just use natural twigs and small little pieces of wood. Burn that, and that can be your stove. And then depending on your climate, that will translate over to heat as well. There are some propane heaters. I use Mr. Buddy quite a bit in the winter when I'm doing winter camping out here in Colorado. But you will want heat, whether that is maintaining and trapping your own body heat via clothing, sleeping bags, stuff like that, or generating heat, whether that be a fire or something like that. There are a lot of methods out there where you can use fire to heat rocks, boil water, put it in an Nalgene, throw it in your sleeping bag to kind of extend the heat that you generate from a fire and bring that into your tent or whatever with you. So heat, which also kind of translates over to shelter. Now, shelter doesn't always mean heat, depending on your climate, but a lot of times shelter will help you maintain a proper heat to stay healthy and alive. So this is where it differs a little bit for me. For overlanding, I'm really a fan of rooftop tents. There's a lot of pros. I usually spend only one night in a place, pack up, go to another place, or maybe I'm only going for a one-night trip, which I do a lot as well because I'm really busy. Sorry, I got a bug flowing around here. So rooftop tent's great for me. Though, open up, doesn't matter, the ground, the levelness. I have a whole pros and cons video. Maybe I'll link to it if I remember up here, but search my channel, pros and cons of rooftop tent or something. Pros and cons. So to overlanding or camping, I love a rooftop tent. I love them. But for bugging out, I probably wouldn't rely on a rooftop tent as my primary. I might bring it along just because I have one and I have it all set up and it's easy to get on there. But I don't know. For a bug out situation, I'd probably want to create a more permanent type location that I'm sleeping, depending on the situation again. So I might want a ground tent, or maybe I would even want to build a shelter. I have some rudimentary shelter building skills, so maybe I would want to build a more permanent shelter or combine it with like a tent or something like that. So bugging out, I'm gonna have to do something about this bug if it doesn't stop bugging me. So bugging out, you might want to get away from your vehicle and establish a more permanent-esque campground, versus overlanding for me is very much one night, pack it up, move along. There are scenarios in a bug out situation where you might want to do that. Maybe you have multiple days to get to a destination, or you just want to move around because it's not safe or whatever. Maybe there's a wildfire that's moving through or something, you might want to pack up a bug out situation as well. So I'm not saying a rooftop tent is totally out of the equation for a bug out type scenario, but you might want the flexibility to set up a ground location, a more permanent structure. And then you'll want hygiene as well, the ability to clean yourself, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into it, but something to consider. You can't go for weeks and weeks and weeks without showering or bathing or cleaning. You'll want to clean your teeth and your body and all that kind of stuff. So those are things to consider. So we have all this stuff, right? All this gear. We have sleeping stuff, cooking stuff, survival stuff, just needs. How are we going to take it all? So if we have a tiny little two-door car, we're not going to be able to bring much with us. If we have a truck, obviously we'll be able to bring more. If we have a little truck, we got to figure out some rack system and some bed storage system, stuff like that. If you have a bigger truck, obviously you can carry more. If you have a Suburban, you can carry more. So you do need a way to carry all of your stuff. So if you have a giant vehicle and not much stuff, no problem. If you have a medium-sized vehicle, but you have a family and there's a lot of stuff that you need to bring, maybe there's some special needs in your family that require you to carry even more stuff, then you do need ways to carry it. So for me, I have a Tacoma, so I have the short bed. This is a 5-foot bed, so it's like the smallest bed you can get on a truck, pretty much. So I don't have a ton of bed space, so I could put a camper shell on top, or I could put a camper shell and I could put racks on top, or I could have an open bed, whatever. I have this Diamondback setup, which I love. I can't imagine living without the Diamondback. So I have, in addition to a bunch of weatherproof storage in the bed of my truck, I do have roof racks on the top as well. This is where I put my rooftop tent, but I could also put other boxes, any kind of stuff that you might want to bring. Another mode of transportation might not be a bad bet. Bringing a bicycle with you in a bug out situation could be very beneficial. Also, if you're into overlanding and you want to hit a mountain bike trail, then racks are great for carrying bikes and that kind of stuff. Kayaks, whatever. You could do whatever you want with racks. So I have a bed system that has both secure storage in the bed as well as a rack system on top to carry even more gear. Now up top here as well, this is a Prinsu design roof rack. I have a box up here too. This is hard mounted. This is an Era 3 box, but you could put anything you want, again, up on your roof racks. So boxes like this are cool because they're relatively streamlined. They don't catch a ton of wind, and you can store stuff securely inside of them. They're lockable, especially if you mount them properly to the roof. You could strap them down with straps or whatever. You could put bags. They have rooftop bags you can put up there. Anything. You have any number of tubs. If you're just trying to get out of Dodge real quick and just throw a bunch of stuff in tubs, strap them down to your roof racks. It's just another way to get gear from point A to point B. But another one are, those Yakima type storage boxes you can obviously throw on top of racks. So in addition to whatever storage that you have inside of your vehicle, which may be taken up by people or dogs or other stuff, you do want an ability to carry gear externally on your vehicle. All right, guys, I think I'm just gonna wrap it up there because this video went long. I wasn't planning on making a video that long, but as things go here on Last Line of Defense, videos tend to go on. Anyway, like I mentioned earlier in the video, definitely let me know down in the comments below stuff that you want me to dive deeper in. I do have plans to review the rack system at some point, maybe talk about some storage boxes, talk about power, solar generator, and solar panel solutions that I'm using, camping hacks, overlanding hacks, all that kind of stuff. Recently, I think I haven't posted it yet because I haven't edited it, but I just took a course on tactical urban sustainment. So we got get home bags, bug out bags, all that kind of stuff. So if you're into that stuff, or if you're into just trucks in general or guns in general, definitely get subscribed to the channel. I make videos like this. I try to do them like once a week. Think about supporting me on Patreon if you want. I do special stuff for patrons over there, giveaways, live videos, things like that. But yeah, if not, whatever, that's cool too. I always put links in the video descriptions down below. I have coupon codes and affiliate codes with a lot of different companies. So if you're looking to save $1 or hundreds, check down below in the video descriptions of all of my videos, and there will be codes there for you. If you found this video helpful, informative, any of that stuff, take 2 seconds, hit that thumbs up button. Let me know that I'm doing something decent here. Get subscribed to the channel if you're not already. Hit that notification icon to become part of the notification squad. I post pictures on Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff too. So anyway, until next time, guys, take care.